有请开始私讯。私讯它是有。对。
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The special session will start in 10 minutes. In order to ensure the audio quality, we strongly recommend that our participants can prepare headphones or speakers. We also provide YouTube Live. You can find the link on our 2021 ICAPPS website. Notice that the webpage display name of the pictures should be set to paper number plus real name, and the name of the moderators should be set to session number plus real name. If there are any questions, please ask the staff for help. The staff is named staff-NCKU-room. Thank you for your cooperation. Good morning again. In the very beginning, I would like to introduce the moderator for a special session today, Chairperson of Department of Urban Planning, NCKU, Professor Zhao Zhiyuan.
Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to the second day of the 2021 ICAPPS. I'm Ziyuan Zhao, Professor and Chairperson of the Department of Urban Planning at National Cheng Kung University. It is our pleasure to be the hosting university this year. Although we cannot see each other in person, me and my organizing team still express our sincere welcome and hope you all enjoy this virtual conference as always. Now, to start this morning, I am very honored to be the moderator in this special session, which has always been a signature event in every ICAPPS. In the special session, we will invite distinguished speakers from each planning association to share their point of view in terms of future planning issues. This year, with no exception, we're going to talk about two important topics: planning education and the influence of the pandemic for planning and design. This year, we're celebrating our department's 50th year's birthday. And we think it will be a very good timing for us to look back and look forward to the planning education as well as the planning pedagogy. Especially, we're encountering several challenges that no cities and no urban planners have ever encountered in history of planning. They are climate change, population aging, as well as the pandemic era. They all happening at the same time. Therefore, this year's topic for the special session is the planning education in the post-pandemic era. It is our great honor to invite Professor Han-Liang from NCKU, as well as Professor Sonn from KPA, and Professor Keiro Hattori from CPIJ, and Professor Han Hui, I hope I pronounce it correct, from VUPDA. So without further ado, let's welcome the first speaker, Professor Han-Liang from National Cheng Kung University, as well as the TIUP, and he's going to talk about the urban planning education, a perspective from the changes of urban life and works after COVID-19. Let's welcome Professor Liang.
Okay, thank you, Stasis. Let's share my slides. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome over the internet to share the topics of urban planning education after COVID-19. I am Han-Liang, working on urban geoscience for more than 20 years in the Department of Urban Planning, National Cheng Kung University. I appreciate the chance to share some of my thoughts, my perspective, or my viewpoint on the future planning education after pandemic. I'm going to start from my understanding to the coronavirus pandemic and observation on its impact on reshaping our city lives. Contemporary urban planning and design have been facing some tough conversation in the crisis changes of climate change, such as tsunami, typhoon with the debris flow and floodings, etc. Nonetheless, the public health crisis of coronavirus may be the hardest one, that the disease itself a mutant all the time, and the social distancing, and the massive job loss and the worst blow-up economics have dramatically changed the city life, the scale and the aspect, and within in a short time, impact to the city. Not a historic disaster can be compared with it. And we see the global economic reception occurred just very have a U-turn at the years of 2020.
Professor Lin, we can't see your share file. Are you sharing with us?
Yes. Sorry. Now back to the track.
Now it's great. Thank you.
Right. So the city, a city becomes quiet and silent. That makes the city no fiber have been used to. So here comes the first questions. Are the city going to disappear? So that is the a graph showed in the World Health Organization is a dashboard about the information of coronavirus. So we see due to yesterday, there was about 4 millions and 400,000 deaths. So its scale is worldwide and not an historical nature disaster can compare with. So whether cities still survive, they have been argued where city died. And we can see the dense agglomeration in activity and the movement transportation may be the most significant phenomenon that makes the city so successful. As culture and the financial hub also make them a hotbed for spread the disease. So the weight pandemic policy and the strategy cities adapt to the response, the spread of disease have been less impacted in reshaping our cities. So there is a graph from our data, our world in data show in 2007, they were about the urban population and compared to rural population, it's about half and half. And the projection, there is a projection, the urban population were over 70 by 2050s. The scenario, so how the city life will be during the pandemic controls. the scenario of COVID-19 city life is pretty much like that. Offices are sitting mostly empty. Shops are closing or struggling to survive, and any plans for live events are put on hold. So, white-collar workers' new daily routine may split working hours between apartment and office, and accompany kids' online learning register their footprints to pick up grocery up from local shops and order lunch and dinners delivers off a digital menu, and to stay home with family during weekend and holiday. So we can see our life has been impacted in this way. But there is also a part of the people, those of the people who lost their jobs and become the unemployed. Those unemployed family only relied on the very limited savings, social security, and employment benefits, which are not enough to cover the cost of revenue, of the rent loans, books, remote education, etc. So it is a great social inequity impacts on our societies. And if you are an older worker out of job during the pandemic, you are even more vulnerable. So, are we going to win the fight with COVID-19? Unfortunately, the professor Andrew Holland, the director of Oxford Vaccine Group, gave his evidence to MPs on August 10, 2021. The vaccine did not stop the spread of COVID-19. That means if we ask for herd immunity to stop the COVID-19, it will be a miss. So are we going to lose the fight with the COVID-19? Not likely. COVID-19 seems to spread more easily than flu. However, as more people become fully vaccinated against COVID-19, the spread of the virus that causes COVID-19 should slow down, and the fact is it getting slowed down in fact. More information about the COVID-19 vaccine and how will they work. So COVID-19 is occurring as cold and flu. It come and go again and again, not just like a cold season or flu seasons. So the strategy of the pandemic strategy of COVID-19, like mask wearing, social distancing, low density agglomeration, and the promote of herd immunity. Since the trend of the pandemic policy and the strategy to allow cities free from lockdown as COVID-19 is back to cold or flu alternatives. So it seems we are going to live with the urge of pandemic COVID-19. So based on that background and understanding, I provide some perspective on the urban planning education after the COVID-19. As the impact and the recovery are space and time and temporary process, urban planning and the urban design are need to look for city more resilience and more flexibility in its place configuration, mobility, open space, and includes community mapping. So the first city are as a network of flows. So this is a network model proposed by worlds. The world can be a regular world or small world or random. As the randomness are higher, the opportunity to get spread or disease are higher. So in a small world, we only control the critical path, then we can reduce the chance of the spread of disease over the space. So to understand how the the relationship between the urban spatial congregation and its network and to the disease spread. We have to identify the critical path of disease spread and move the city structure most resilient in resisting the spread. And the second is the city still need to maintain the necessary flow. So we need to keep mobility as an infrastructure service. Recently, mobility as a service has been a hot topics. So the density is not the tables to the problem of spread of illness. All we have to do is dealing with the overcrowded. The overcrowding will be more dangerous than the disease. So we need diversity in mobility and make the connection of mobility as an infrastructure to provide service to all levels of the society. So here is the map that the river system along with the street space system connect in a hub and the public space. Some make a system to provide a diversity service to all category of the societies. And then the open system, the open space system has to be designed as a system. The left graph is the granites of Kaohsiung cities, and the open space is a pattern of the pattern and the scale of blocks and the public space that arrange and the scale of the movement network streets and roads and paths. If the correct organization of the open space system as an infrastructure during the normal time, it can provide a very strong service to increase the urban life qualities. But during the quarantine pandemic periods, it can also provide a very good space for the spatial regulation. Make our cities more resilient. And finally, we need an inclusive community markets. So because of the economic recessions, so some of the people will lose their job and return to the community. The community should be a place to provide a support for their life during the impacts of COVID-19. So we are talking about co-housing, co-living, cohabiting community. The key thing to oppress a community who can be a cohabitants community. It should be a place. It should be a place with with an ecology behind to provide a social support system within the community. So the idea of walking distance neighborhood or 50 minutes neighborhood tend to mixed land use a compact community better in coping, adapting to the city crisis or equities. The shortened connection paths in reducing disease affection and spread. The mixed land use is expected to generate a social physical support technology for all groups of community to moderate the impact of inequity. In the community space, urban are provided for shop, education, production, social care at the community scale for community common goods. And to make all this happen, it is PTS Earth. We live in a world full of data, and the data can be also a model to tell us about the instant truth, the how phenomena are going. So it is an urge of digital governance, and we need digital management on the space to cooperate with the trend of the digital governance over the world. So you can see the spread of dashboard, spheres, or the space-time hotspot map to provide our really instance data to fine-tune our strategy and our design to the space to incorporate the challenge of COVID-19. So, summary, making change in the built environment has been the way cities have been responsive to the spread of the disease throughout the history. So again, the discourse of new normal raises the rethinking of principles of urban planning and the design for a robust urban form incorporating the pandemic quarantine. So the city will never disappear. The CBD will never disappear. But the landscape may change because the business model may be changed. So the threat of coronavirus pandemic for city may be a journey for urban planner to show a future city be a lot more inclusive, digital governance integrated, space-time less crowded, and a higher resilience capacity than ever before. So finally, to live with the pandemic, and I would like to have the vision, a digital governance urban society of the inclusive, active, and resilient infrastructures on the open space and the mobility. And regarding the urban plan education in future after the pandemic, an innovative science and art plan education to decode the myths what urban planning can do to future challenges and be able to succeed in making common goods for our city's transformation. Thank you for your listening and attention. That is my presentation on the topics of urban planning after the COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Lin, for your informative sharing. I think two important points that I grabbed from your talk is that one, the challenge for a planner is how do we keep enough social distancing at the same time still maintain our social connection. And that will be a great challenge for our next generation's planner. And the second thing is, how are we going to utilize the science-based digital management system or technology to run our city so that we really can live with the COVID-19 or any pandemic in the future? Okay, thank you very much for Professor Lin. And I think we have to move on due to the time consideration. So let's welcome Jung Sonn from the KPA, and he's the president of the KPA at the same time. And he's going to talk about remote working cities and remote teaching universities. And let's welcome Professor Jung Sonn.
Do you see my slides?
Professor Sonn, are you going to talk on live or do you want to play the video?
I want to talk online. Can you?
Okay. Yeah. So.
Right. So do you hear me?
Yes. Perfect.
Right. Good. Right. Thank you thank you organizers of this year's ICAPPS for inviting me to this prestigious session. My name is Sonn. I am teaching at Bartlett School of Planning, University College London. I also have an adjunct position at International School of Urban Sciences, University of Seoul, Oh, by the way, unlike the introduction, I am not a president of KPA. Thank you, Professor Hyun-Soo Kim, for choosing me to be the KPA side participant of this session. So the title of my presentation is Remote Working Cities and Remote Teaching Universities. I will focus on this remote working aspect of post-pandemic cities in this presentation. There is vibrant debate going on about pandemic and the city, and in that debate, I could identify 4 distinct discourses. One is back to village movement, which predicts people will want to have village lives, knowing vulnerability of the city to the pandemic. And the second is tactical urbanization, with potential pandemic ever present. Instead of trying to have a large-scale development, it is more important to make small modification of what we already have. And the third is securitization of planning, that is, making the city more secure for the next pandemic, is the priority of the planning. The last one is even bigger discourse, which is Great Reset. It is about transition of society and the city to be more environmentally sustainable. I think these discourses have serious problems and flaws. These discourses have neglected economic logic that people's lives are bound by economic needs. People need income to pay for food, shelter, and other necessities. Without considering this economic logic, any kind of predictions about the future wouldn't be realistic. And the next flaw is wishful thinking and the self-serving predictions. For example, urban designers say that in the post-pandemic cities, good urban design will be more important. The transportation planners say that transit-oriented development and the sustainable transportation will be more important in the post-pandemic world. Each subgroup within planning say that their expertise will be more important in the post-pandemic world. I have to say this is wishful thinking. The last one might be even more serious. These discourses forget the fact that people forget very easily. People are forgetful. The photo on the upper side is the damaged parking lot in 1994 Los Angeles earthquake. At that time, after the earthquake, there was a huge academic debate and public discourse about how the city should be reorganized to be ready for the next earthquake, which can be even bigger than the current one. There were building codes changes, but in terms of planning and urban development, there wasn't much change. After 20 years, I don't see any serious change. And the next photo is more contemporary one. It is a wildfire in California. Wildfire in California is not uncommon. Every 5 to 10 years, there is wildfire. And the expensive houses built near the nature are all burned down. But guess what? 5 years later, people rebuild those houses. And people forget what disasters did to them, to their cities, and to their houses very quickly. So I'm pretty sure after COVID-19 is over, people will forget about it in a few years. Probably not in 1 year or 2, but in 5 to 10 years, people will forget. So there is, except a few things that are proven to be economically useful. Among all the lessons that we get, people will remember what is economically useful, but others will be forgotten. I am very sure about it. So in this situation, what can we do as a researcher instead of talking about our own wishes? There are a few things that we can do as a researcher to make predictions more academic and more rigorous. The first is finding data from the past experiences. We don't have much data about COVID-19 or other pandemics, but there were lots of small-scale natural disasters that influenced the cities and the regions. Fukushima tsunami, earthquakes in Taiwan, and the flooding in Thailand. That sort of natural disasters influenced the nearby cities and the regions for the next few years. That was a small-scale experiment about the damages of cities from the natural disaster and the recovery process. We have a fairly good research about it in the past. We have literature about it. So we can utilize those research in predicting what is going to happen after pandemic. Instead of doing guesswork, we can use literature. We can do literature review to predict the future. And the next thing that I suggest is to analyze with the focus on variables that we know for sure. There are lots of things that may or may not happen. Instead of listing 100 variables and superficially treat them, let's focus on variables that we know for sure and give serious thoughts to those variables. I will give an example, one of the obvious examples later. And another thing is to considering the time lag in real urban outcomes of the COVID-19 after pandemic is over. What we see, the change that we see right now, not all of them will stay with us. Some of them will disappear after pandemic, but some of the outcomes will go back to the normal and then come back. So there might be some time lag before we see the real change to the cities. So I said earlier, we should focus on what we know for sure. One of the things that we know for sure is remote working, and the remote teaching as a type of remote working will stay with us forever. And we have now a good understanding about what can be done remotely and what cannot be done remotely. Because we should use remote working as a key variable in predicting future and the planning for the future. Let's try that. After a pandemic, everybody returns to the office space to work, but gradually, spatial arrangement of organizations meaning companies, universities, government, all kinds of organizations. The spatial arrangement of organization will change, which will take a year or two, which will influence this in the rent and the price of a built environment in city centers and other places in a year or two, which will in turn change the physical form of cities in the long run, in 10 or 20 years. So what kind of remote working am I talking about? This kind of remote working is unrealistic if you have regular employment. I don't think you can go away to South Pacific and work from there, except a few. What is more realistic is mixed picture, because businesses now know what works remotely and what doesn't. They will make decisions about each of the functions, each of the divisions, each of the workers of organizations separately, and they make a decision about locations for those functions, individuals, and the divisions. In the end, employees of companies will be mixed. There will be daily commuting workers. There will be also regular commuters, regular meaning once a week or twice a week, etc. And then there are irregular commuters who come to office only when they are needed. And then there are non-commuters at all. So all of them will be mixed together in one organization. And the spatial arrangement of an organization, including companies and universities, will be mixed as well. There will be city center office, but they will also have other offices, and there are home offices, etc. So companies will have urban offices, but there will be more active use of back offices and the satellite offices, and which makes urban locations smaller than it used to be. It won't disappear, but it will be smaller. So then what about residential locations of workers? Many of the workers can choose to move away because they don't come every day. If you drive 2 hours once a week, that's not a problem, isn't it? So instead of we are living near the office, you can choose to live 300 kilometers away from your office. So that becomes a real choice, which means a further expansion of more cities. So it's not shrinkage of cities; it will be expansion of cities. Physical size of the cities will be bigger, although the density will be lower. So businesses with remote working are less likely to be located in city center, and the remote workers they will be in the cities, but doesn't have to be in the city center. So we have research about this. It's not anything new here, actually. There were a lot of research about this. Almost 20 years ago, at that time, it was about the research topic was about influence of internet. But what is actually happening right now is not anything qualitatively different. It is just a bigger version of it that we see, further version of it, not anything qualitatively different. So we can use the research from 20 years ago to predict the future after pandemic. So the outcome, if we can extrapolate the research outcomes from the past, so one of the outcome will be the scalar transition of megacities. It's a megacity is not a super conglomeration any longer. It is a dense web of numerous small cities because people don't come to city center every day. So as far as you are within I don't know 2 to 3 hours distance, that's okay. You are part of the city. So it is urbanization of hinterland, I have to say. It's commuting with high-speed, long-distance rather than suburban railways. Long-distance railways, not a suburban railways. So driving wouldn't be fast enough if you are 400, 300 or 400 kilometers away. But if you can take Shinkansen or KTX or other kinds of high-speed railways, even if you live in 400 miles away and you have to commute once a week, that will be okay. So it would be small scale developments everywhere in the city region. So it will be physically bigger, but not really densely populated. So under these circumstances, what planners can do is a TOD, but the TOD is not in its traditional sense. It is not about TOD based on subways and the bus lines. It's a TOD based on high-speed railways. Right, skip that. And then what about what's going to happen in higher education? Can we apply what we know about companies and the residential locations to higher educations? Partially, yes. We already have long-distance universities like University of Phoenix of the United States, but these universities are not prestigious as traditional universities. During COVID-19, we are learning that remote teaching is not an inferior good, but a complementary good. So experiments and the design training work better in real times and face-to-face, but lectures can be offered through recorded lecture. This changes the perception of remote teaching, allows prestigious universities to use remote teaching more actively. Some of the traditional universities are already doing it. Like Durham University, for example, it's a small university not known very well outside the UK, but it is a very prestigious university in the UK. And they announced that they will continue remote teaching for 50% of their classes after pandemic. So this means that global universities can now enter Asian educational market more easily. We already have universities from Europe and North America in Asian countries, but they are not the best ones. So now that remote teaching is feasible, better ones will come using remote teaching like Harvard, Cambridge, and that sort of universities. They have advantage over domestic universities because they are free from strict national regulations of Asian countries. Some of the domestic universities may voluntarily give up their position as universities and become local function provider for global best universities. Under these circumstances, traditional universities in Asia will have to respond as well. When lectures are increasingly recorded, it will allow outsourcing of teaching. The curriculum of a department would not be original creation, but editing of teaching modules available in the market by making changes, making choices about what to buy rather than what to teach. So it's a loss of departmental characters, but improvement of teaching quality for sure. So in this presentation, I claimed that in addition to immediate aftermath, we should think about planning far beyond the end of a pandemic, at least the next 10 to 20 years. Some changes during the pandemic return to pre-pandemic times, but others will not. And one of the permanent changes is increase of remote working and remote teaching, which has immense influence on urban form and the mode of planning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sonn, and I really think your presentation is quite interesting. And several points I grabbed from your presentation is that people forget, but our planners should not. And that is why after...
Sorry, the chairperson, you are muted. Okay.
Thank you. And so that's why the outbreaks of the SARS in Hong Kong, they actually fundamentally changed the building regulations of the public housing. And that is how the planners don't forget. And I think what we learned from your speech is also that we need more data, we need more evidence to let us know what will change and what will not change. And one thing for sure is that the remote working, remote teaching, remote living style will actually fragment the land use in the future. So we really think we really need to go back and to see how are we going to utilize or make our space more multifunction through planning or design. And thank you, because of the time limitation, we don't have Q&A time, and because we have two more speakers. So thank you, Professor Sonn, again from KPA. I don't know if you're from London, connecting from London. If that's so, it's 2 a.m. and we really appreciate your enthusiasm. Thank you very much. And then now for the next presentation, and let's welcome Professor Keiro Hattori. I don't know if I pronounced it right. If not, sorry about that. From the CPIJ. It's okay. And he's going to talk about our residents of smart cities, smart cities for whom? And Professor Hattori, are you online?
I think I am.
Yes. Are you going to speak live, or do you want to play the video?
I would like to play, I would like to talk live, if it's okay. Can
Yes.
you hear me?
Yes,
Can you
perfectly.
hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay,
So
well-
let's welcome Professor Hattori. You
Okay,
can
thank you
start
very
at
much.
any time.
Okay. If you have a hard time hearing me, please inform me, okay? Because I'm not quite sure if I'm doing okay. Okay, I would like to, well, first of all, I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk today. But first of I have to apologize that my talk is not about really COVID-19 and planning. This is kind of because I think it's a bit immature to talk about COVID-19, especially when you're living in Tokyo, because the record of COVID patient is increasing every day. Every day is like a new record. So I have a difficulty, and in addition, like this is like the recent data of population change in 2020 between prefectures, and the orange indicates the prefecture that population is increasing in 2020, and the blue indicates the prefecture that is losing more than 1% of population. So this is like I mean, COVID thing, people would think like people would move from a big city to maybe rural area. It's not happening, like at least last year. So it's like same old story. So rather, I would like to play a devil's advocate and play just to give some of the just topic to spur the discussion about smart cities. Because smart cities, people think that they could like solve the COVID-19 problem, but maybe not. Because like smart city sounds very good. Actually, what is smart city? Are residents of smart cities really smart? Or like, does smart cities make you smart? Smart cities for whom? I am presenting this question because we now understand that like, smartphone has made most of us stupid than smart. So now we are so dependent on smartphones that it's difficult to live without it. We are kind of like become slave of smartphone. And if you take smartphone as a precedent, then smart cities have the possibility to make us maybe stupid rather than smart. So smart city are planned to complement the stupidity of human being. But does that really make people happier? This is kind of like question I would like to raise as today's topic. So in order to contemplate this question, I came up with a famous 5 criteria of good cities presented by Kevin Lynch like 40, 50 years ago. So Kevin Lynch has presented this 5 criteria, as you may know. It's access, sense, vitality, control, and fit. And I think this he's his perception of understanding of the good cities still work today, still function. And with transformation to smart cities, I kind of like evaluated this 5 criteria, and I understand kind of like the access will probably increase or improve. However, like sense and control would decrease quite immensely. So smart city doesn't seem to be good city, at least from according to the criteria presented by Kevin Lynch. So I would also like to think this a bit further. I have presented these 2 photos of transportation system, metro in Washington, D.C. on left, and BRT, Fast Rapid Transit, in Curitiba on left. Which do you think is smarter? This is kind of interesting because they carry same number of passengers daily. But the metro spent 200 times more money on its construction. So if you think smart people are the people who saves money, maybe Curitiba is smarter than Washington, D.C.'s metro. And this is also like 2 photos of a system of generating energy. The photo on left shows Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, and the right is like a wind power energy in Copenhagen, Denmark. The nuclear power plant needs much more sophisticated engineering expertise. It's probably you need to be smarter. However, they produce same energy, and the wind power is much more risk-free than nuclear power plant. So what people perceived as smart city may not be so smart. Then what is like the objective of creating this smart city? And in addition, I would also like to point out that anybody who's saying smart is not really reliable, as we kind of learned from like this last 4 years. I would not talk about it probably, but people would understand what I'm trying to say. And also like quoting from Jacob Golem, he talked about this authenticity, and I quote, all agree in principle that any positive definition of authenticity would be self-nullifying. So, I mean, it's anybody who claims he or she is smart is a bit untrustworthy. And I would also like to present and share with you this quite interesting result of the pulse survey done like in 2017. This is like the pulse survey conducted by Website Magazine for urban planners, Planetizen. Some of you may probably know. This Planetizen has conducted the pulse survey in 2017, asking the 100 most influential urbanists to its readers. And this is like the result. Interestingly, Jane Jacobs, who virtually built or planned nothing, was ranked number 1. So, but this is not what I want to say. Well, I mean, curiously, Ebenezer Howard, who I consider probably like the most influential urbanist, ranked 19. So this may be not so trustworthy, maybe, but I still like to show. But I still like to show this poll survey result to you, because the people who ranked number 2 was like the Jaime Lena of Curitiba, former mayor. Jaime Lena was like came to number 2nd, and he's uncontroversially is a great planner, by the way. And the people who came like number 4 and 5 was Jan Gehl of Copenhagen and Andres Duany of New Urbanism. And these 3 people who ranked in like top 25 has focused more on people rather than the system of the city. So they are, I would like to say, were not really smart, but they were kind of like wise. They had this wisdom rather than like more like he didn't think as like he kind of respect the engineering, but his priority was making people more happier. Some quotes from Jaime Lena. I don't think the cities of the future will look like they are depicted in Flash Gordon or Blade Runner, because cities today are not much different from cities 300 years ago. And I'm not really sure smart cities are aiming for this. I don't think we are. And the next quote that I would like to take from Jaime Lena. The trend is for a reduction in scale. Many business complexes will be fragmented, and increasingly the city will be a structure of living and working together. So was he suggesting 15-minute city? I think 15-minute city concept is kind of a big thing in COVID-19 crisis, because people tend to live.
Ready to pair another device. URBAN.
Okay, because people now this seems to be more self-dependent and living in close proximity to the living environment. So this 15-minute city is kind of interesting, but maybe Jaime Lena was predicting this will come before. And some of the image of 15-minute city, the photo on the left is in Kyoto, a very pedestrian neighborhood. Well, it's neighborhood with like a lot of restaurants. And on the left is this big shopping center in the suburb of Osaka. So another image, the left side is like a famous cycle path in, I'm sorry, this is Münster in Deutschland. And on the left is like this huge intersection of freeway in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Another like image to image, 15-minute city on the left. This is, I suppose, this small pocket park in New York, Manhattan, and the right side is this big baseball stadium or big stadium in Tokyo. And also, I would also like to add that like the cost of creating smart city is actually very, very expensive. And so this is the hidden reason for people promoting the smart city, but it's so expensive to build. And if we consider like being smart is saving money, creating smart city may not really it's not really rational. And I would like to quote from Jaime Lena once again. I'm quoting from Jaime Lena so much because, as you may know, he passed away this May 27, and I think we have a lot to learn from, him. So I got this quote. If you from Jaime, if you want creativity, cut the zero from your budget. If you want sustainability, cut 2 zeros from your budget. If you want solidarity, own your identity and respect the identity of others. So if you want to make city, or at least people living in city, more creative, or if you want to make city sustainable, his suggestion is, decrease your budget. That's so. In concluding this, I'm sorry, very random, irrational talk, maybe. But in concluding my talk, I would like to propose a few of my thoughts regarding smart city and also about considering about this COVID situation. If the residents of cities are not smart, does it make cities smart? I'm sorry, I cannot read this. Does it make the city smart? However, the hidden intention of smart city seems to be take the autonomy away from the residents. So for whom is smart city smart for? As a member of Urban Planner, are we really willing to make cities smart? We could be the new victims of Jane Jacobs or Louis Mumford of the 21st century if we are not careful. Cities should function as a place to encourage people's creativity and solidarity. If smart city deprive people of control and sense, it will take away the key appeal from a city. It will be likely to discourage people's creativity and solidarity. So urban planners should be wise enough to realize that city is a server for people and not vice versa. Too much dependency on the system will make people stupid rather than smart, like smartphones, and with higher cost. Okay, thank you, and excuse me my being devil's advocate. I am hoping that this talk will spur some heated discussion regarding smart city and the influence of COVID city to urban planning and urban design. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Hattori. And I think it's a really inspiring speech. And not really a devil's advocate. I think it is quite informative and also inspiring for all the planners. We need to understand what's the difference between wisdom and smart. Okay, being smart is not enough for the future planner. We also have to have the wisdom to tell what's the consequences of making a smart city. I think that is something you really want to point it out. And as well as how are we going to make a smart city an inexpensive smart city? How are we going to say that? But fortunately and unfortunately, we also have to rely on smart technology to make our communication smart. And so, one last thing I want to point out is I don't really buy that online survey thing about 100 most influential urbanists as well. I think it is so manipulative, so easy to be manipulated. And thank you, Professor Hattori. And we hope you can stay online and to maybe we can discuss a little bit more later on. And thank you, Professor Hattori. Now, without further ado, let's welcome our last speaker, but not least, Professor Lim Pan Tai Hui from VUPDA, and he's going to talk about the post-epidemic era urban planning in Vietnam. And Professor Hui, are you online? Yes, I think we will play your video directly. Is that okay with you? Can you turn on your mic?
Please wait.
Yes? Is that okay that we play the video that you prepared? Okay, I think we.
Excuse me. I prefer to speak live because I would like to shortcut this economy time.
Okay, that would be great. So, please start when you are ready. Anytime.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can you hear
perfectly.
me? Tắt bên này đi. Tắt bên này đi. Dear colleagues, can you hear me? Em bật mic bên này đi.
Loud and clear.
Dear colleagues, can you
Loud
hear
and
me?
clear. Loud and clear. You're okay to present.
Từ chưa được em phải tắt bên này đi đã. Dear colleagues, I'm honored to share with you some point of view. Sorry, we have some technical problem. Bây giờ em làm thế nào để mình tắt được cái bên chị đi hoặc tắt bên kia? Tắt bên này chưa? Alo, không nghe được. Mình đang bị vọng. Vấn đề là phải tắt bên này. Vâng.
Professor Pham, you're only allowed to have one speaker on.
Yeah.
Yes, because if you have two speakers on, you will have a very strong echo at our audience, for our audience. So please only make sure that you have one speaker on. Thank you.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Excellent. Excellent. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Sorry. Yeah, dear colleagues, I'm very honored to share with you some idea from Vietnam for the topic of post-epidemic era of urban planning. Yes, from our very interest presentation of our professor from Japan and from London and Taiwan, we can agree that the pandemic affects people's ability to travel and communicate. But we also agree that it is an instinctive human need. So people will want to communication needs because it is our instinctive human need. And here about the question about complexity, we agree that complexity have many advantages which we should promote even in the post-pandemic period. We consider this type of urban structure advantage because if we in that kind of complexity structure, if we have open space, public space, and we have a good arrangement like Professor said before, people can have a good condition during the lockdown time or during the quarantine time. But one other measure which is not new, which actually applied in many places, but we would like to emphasize is we need more thin building. Building should be thinner. Maybe the optimum is 10 to 12 meters, so that the apartment, the living space can be easier exposed to the natural life and have a better ventilation, and then people less depend on air conditioning. Also, the layout of building should minimize the adverse effect of the climate. For example, to avoid the direct sunlight, strong sunlight or direct cold wind, so that people can live in more with windows opened and less air conditioners. Another, not idea, not new, but we would like to emphasize is the không nhìn thấy slide excuse me, can you see the slides?
Yes, we can see the slides.
They see the slide. Yeah, okay. Bên chú nhìn thấy mà đúng không? Okay. Sorry, I'm continue. Yeah, and you can see that the large balcony should become a mandatory criterion, because it is the space when during the pandemic time and social distancing, people have a better connection with the open space. It is a in-home and family semi-open lounge. And also inner building corridors should be exposed to somehow to connect to the natural life and natural ventilation. Again, the issue of the inner building design. Maybe people already know about that, but we not paid attention enough and not managed enough to do this with our living space. And also we think that one of the advantages of compact city, everybody already know, and many professors mentioned, it is about the distance of travel will be reduced. And when there is a crisis situation, people can, the bicycling or walking would be more feasible. And we can somehow to reduce the depend on the public transportation. And also another thing about urban smart. Okay, we totally agree with Dr. Keiro Hattori from Japan that we not necessarily depend totally on smart solution, but anyway, with the development of the technology, we can implement those, utilize the technology to create more comfortable and measure for reducing the effect of pandemic, like the ventilation for the elevator or many other measures to make the elevator and the high-rise not become the scary place for people. And one more thing is that with the higher density, for example, in Vietnam now we have a kind of some quite crisis situation in Ho Chi Minh City, for example. With the higher population density, the help from the government or the charity activities will also easier to be accessed to the people. And again, about the many the doctor from Taiwan already mentioned, so I don't repeat, that we can agree that in the distance of 15 minutes, or we often call it 5 meter to 1 kilometer radius or distance around the TOD station, people should have the most essential services for living day, so that people can easier survive in the pandemic time. And about the park, we are sure that the park have the very important role from people to achieve a mental and physical health needs in social distancing. But here, like a doctor from Japan already, from Taiwan already mentioned, we need not only the quantity of the open space, but it needs the quality, the proper arrangement, the connection, so that we don't have too much crowded people in the open space. We have the dispersed, but also connected to become good jogging or cycling paths, etc. Like an example here we try to create in Vietnam. And also for the park, we also mentioned that we need enough open space in the park so that it can become a makeshift hospital, or it become the places people know where to go when they have a crisis situation. And the last thing about the remain of the active needs of the city, we believe that the city will play the important role. Of course, there will be some changes, but as we agree that not all the people can working far from home, so not all people can working from home, so we should try to keep the advantages and the attractive of the city. And so we can agree that in the city, high density, the people will pay less time for traveling, and it's a very important criteria of living life, living quality. And also, for example, for universities, we can agree that online and remote teaching will play an important role, but we cannot replace all by remote teaching, because as Christopher Alexandra, I would like to quote from Christopher and Alexandra, structure for a good university which interact with the city, because with this interaction, students will richer experience and better ability to innovate, to serve people and the society. And again, we are trying to emphasize the role of the public buildings to become the places for makeshift hospital, or for the places where people know where to go in crisis situation. And last thing, again, I should emphasize that we share the opinion of Dr. Keiro Hattori from Japan, that we should not too much depend on the smart system. However, we try to balance. From the one side, maybe Japan and other countries already developed a lot, and now maybe we should some balance. But from Vietnam, we still not yet enough developed, so we think that we need both. We try to keep our strong community connection lifestyle, and in the other hand, we try to develop the system to some certain level so that people will be connected enough during the crisis time. So maybe this is the last conclusion and idea. So I would like to stop my my presentation and speak to the chairman of the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Lingpan Taihui. I just don't know how to pronounce your name correctly. Apologize again.
My name's Ling. My name's Ling, please.
Okay, great. Thank you, Professor Lim. And I think your talk is kind of really great conclusion, make a remark of this special session. Because of the time limitation, please allow me to make a brief conclusion of this special session. I think today we have 4 fantastic, interesting shared point of view from 4 countries. And it is our consensus that it is necessary for the planners to rethink how the urban planning technology or urban planning skills, design skills, react to the post-epidemic era. And we might start with retrofitting the smart city, compact city, TOD kind of concept. And then we still have to live with the epidemic at the same time. So it is our duty to find a solution, just as the new urban agenda by the UN pointed out that for the 21st century urban challenges, that the urban planning can be the solution and has to be the solution. And we have to find out the solution for all the people and city dwellers. Okay, so thank you very much for attending this special session, and I express my highest appreciation to our 4 speakers. And you all point out very important future challenges and how the planners should react to that. So the last but not least thing, we need to take a group photo for the special session. So I would like to invite all of you turn on your video. Turn on your video, yes. Now. Could all of you please turn on your video and present your perfect smile to your screen. And then we'll have a group photo when you're ready. So please stay put with your smile on. Hold still. A lot of people are taking screenshots right now, so thank you for your cooperation. And are we done? Not yet, so keep smiling. Okay. We have over 100 participants in this special session. So thank you so much for get up early on Sunday morning. Okay, we're done. Thank you for your bright smile. And that's it for the special session. And please don't forget to participate in other parallel session in about 10 minutes. So thank you so much. See you around.